So one of the questions that I get a lot is which 90s Super JDM is my favorite. And by the way, I am coining that phrase. I'm super pumped up because I think that 90s Super JDM is a really neat term and word. So that's what I'm using. So I'm gonna tell you right away which one is my favorite. And I look at cars like they have souls, so I'm gonna be telling them they're all my favorite, but there's something super unique and amazing about the GTR. And let me tell you, I've been thinking for days and weeks actually how I wanted to present this video. And when I was at a car show this last Sunday, somebody asked me that question. I had a chance to kind of rehearse, so I kind of know exactly how I'm going to say it. So when the NSX came out, it was about $62,000. And in the 1990s, if you convert that to today's standard, it's close to $100,000. So it's an expensive car. And the engineers knew that they had to build one of the best cars, and they did, in my opinion, one of the best mid-engine supercars of the time, but also take into consideration their demographics. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with corporations or automotive manufacturers, they aren't in the business to just build the best car. They're in the business to build the best car that will sell and where they can also make the best margin. So they have to do kind of like a reverse engineering, and they have to look at their potential buyer. And whenever someone was looking at an NSX and who could afford something like that, they knew that they were going to present a sports car, but they also had to add a little bit of refinement, a little bit of that comfortable touch. And that's why they had things like the NSX-R, the NSX Type S. They had versions that are a little bit more aggressive. But the NSX is one of the only cars that is 30 years old and that I could get into it, do a bunch of errands, drive it for an hour or two, feel really comfortable and have a good time. It is truly one of those well-rounded, well-refined cars. Now, when it comes to the Mazda RX-7, I'm actually gonna make a whole video about it, but let me tell you guys, owning 50 plus cars has given me an opportunity to experience different things and feel different things. And the Mazda RX-7 feels exactly like a Honda S2000, but with a turbo. No lie. So I had a 2006 AP2 S2000 and it was nimble, it was fun, and I could go into corners with confidence that I usually will never do. As a matter of fact, I did a straight L turn with the RX-7 going into my neighborhood that I have never tried or never even wanted to try. But I was driving and I was like, I'm pretty sure that I could just take a turn like this, and that RX-7 did it. Now, the S2000s are fun, but you have to ring them out. And I mean, that's part of the fun. But the beautiful thing about the RX-7 is that it's got that sequential turbo system. So at low RPMs, it actually has that torque you need. And the reason why I know this is because I have a hill going up to my house. And with all my other cars that are manual and that are non-forced inductions, you kind of got to drop a gear because you kind of get sluggish. You know, the NSX is one of those, you have to go into second. But with the RX-7, you've got that turbo that you could go over the hill without even having to switch a gear, which is really cool. So the RX-7 is super nimble, and I'm in love with the sunroof and the shape. The shape is beautiful. But I feel like the RX-7 was one of those cars that was an engineering marvel, and they had to balance this awesome Wankel rotary engine with this beautiful design, but also, tone back a tiny bit, not a lot, a tiny bit, for reliability of the 13B and also for reliability of the car in general. So I think that the rotary engine itself is a monster. But the Mazda RX-7 is really an S2000 with a turbo. It's a lot of fun. The reason why the GTR is a car that steals my heart, and it always will take the flag in almost every aspect, is because it was a car that was designed solely with one purpose without compromise. There was no other thing in mind. And if you think about some of the best cars out there, that's exactly the pedigree they had. Like if you think about like a GT3 RS, it was specifically built to be a GT3 RS. Or some of your really cool cars like a McLaren F1, or cars out there that like the original Cobras or the GT500s, just certain things. And I'm talking about the back in the days when they were first introducing them. These cars were literally from the blueprint to the actual manufacturer, from the engineers to the drivers. The R33, 32, and 34 were literally built for the racetrack, for speed, for cornering, for driving, for motorsports. I mean, the whole car says it, and the driving experience also backs it up. You got to remember, all-wheel drive. It also has an intelligent like torque bias system, all-wheel drive. It also has that beautiful inline six with the individual throttle bodies. It's got 2 turbos. It's got rear-wheel steering. I mean, everything about the car was designed for speed and racetrack. And again, I always talk about some of the things that you already know about it being the first car to break the 8-second barrier Nürburgring. But the driving experience, just if you want to go from the house to run an errand to Lowe's or Home Depot or the grocery store, or just to go get, you know, a mocha or something like that, let me tell you guys, the experience you get is like being on like a fighter jet. It's just, it just launches you, and you hear those turbos, and the car feels really unique. It really does feel like driving a specific race car of its time on the road. Now, if you think about the R33, there really isn't anything they compromise. You get front and rear strut towers, you know, you get the proper sway bars, you get a very proper intercooler, not one of those tiny ones. You get actually a front mount intercooler from the factory. And again, going back to the RB26, it is amazing. From a personal standpoint, it's just absolutely invigorating to drive that car. Every time you turn it on and you drive, the sound, the speed, the feel, there's nothing like it. And that's why, to me, the Skylines are the king. All right, guys, I'm curious to hear what you say. I thought I'd answer one of the questions that I get often about which car is my favorite. They're all my favorite, but at the end of the day, the R33 GT-R has always, any Skyline has always stolen my heart, and rightfully so, guys. Like, you guys need to drive one, and drive one properly, and actually get that experience, and you guys will see that they're very special cars. The rest of these cars are beautiful. I know I'm going on a rant because I'm justifying, but my NSX, as you could tell, it hasn't left. It survived all the cars that's come into this garage and left, and that's because this car is one of those cars that I could drive across the country and back and enjoy every second. And with the AC, and with the R33, I feel like, you know, it's purpose built, which I like. So it's one of those things that you have an all-around car, you have a purpose-built weapon, and you just have a fun little rocket ship, literally. And that's pretty much about it. All right, guys, tell me what you think in the comments. Hit that like button, share a video if you think somebody might agree or disagree. I'm always open for discussion, and thanks for watching.